been put forth by a lot of people, different theories with slightly different understanding of what this might be, were put forth by two people. One of them is Susan Pocket, the other one is John Joe McFadden. John Joe McFadden is this is the guy I talked about yesterday, and his paper was something I downloaded called The Conscious Electromagnetic Information Field Theory, or SEMI theory, CEMI theory. And the subtitle is The Hard Problem Made Easy. This is what he thinks. Okay, I'm reading this from Wikipedia article. On the Wikipedia article about the SEMI theory, CEMI, not SEMI, CEMI theory, the starting point for McFadden and Pocket's theory is the fact that every time a neuron fires to generate an action potential, a postsynaptic potential in the next neuron down the line, it also generates a disturbance in the surrounding electromagnetic field. This is all previously understood. McFadden has proposed that the brain's electromagnetic field creates a representation of the information in the neurons. So before I continue, I need to tell you this one thing that was one of the cornerstones of the problems in this understanding what consciousness is, which is the binding problem. The binding problem is the question of how disparate areas in the brain fire separately. Conscious experience is unified. If I'm looking at a pen, the color and the shape and the sensation of the pen, they're all being processed by different parts of the brain. But when I hold the pen and look at the pen, all these sensations combine to form the idea of the pen in my perception. Similarly, with things like, this is a famous example by Sam Harris. If you touch your nose with your finger, distances traveled by the signal are different lengths, but it feels very spontaneous. So there is this spatio-temporal binding problem. What is spatio-temporal? The space and time. Temporal means changing in time, basically, kind of. So EM fields have this property that they automatically fulfill the problem of this binding and synchronization between different parts of the brain, because it's all being done at the level of the electromagnetic field, which is ever present everywhere. So McFadden thinks this is where the problem came up. This is where I kind of got confused by what McFadden is saying. McFadden thinks that the EM fields could influence the brain in a number of ways. A redistribution of ions could modulate neuronal activity. Given that voltage-gated ion channels are a key element in the process of axon spikes, so here the argument is that since neurons can generate the electromagnetic field, and when it's synchronized together, becomes strong enough so as to influence other parts of the brain, because of course the electromagnetic field can influence the firing of neurons. This is a non sequitur. Nobody requires a circular network, a feed forward network in the mind for consciousness to arise. I believe there is, I'm not sure, I'm not a neuroscientist, I don't understand most of the ideas talked about here, and I'm not a part of the whole discussion on this, but it kind of feels like a classic problem of shifting the definition of consciousness into slightly about agency. The fact that we feel agency, that the fact that we feel like we are consciously picking up this pen, voluntarily picking up this pen, should mean that this action means that the conscious experience is influencing the motor neurons of my hand. And this is what McFadden uses. Electromagnetic field downloads its inner state into the into the motor neurons, thereby exposing itself to the world. But that is not a necessity for consciousness to arise. Consciousness is, by what I am defining it as, is nothing but the subjective experience of being a human. And all the feed forward network